She was speeding. He pulled her over. It should have ended with a ticket. But what happened next? It changed both their lives forever. In this emotional, true-to-life story, a police officer arrests a heartbroken woman, only to later find himself broken and alone. What he didn't expect was that she'd be the one to put him back together. From betrayal to redemption, from stranger to savior. This isn't just a story about law and order. It's about compassion, second chances, and the power of helping someone, even when it's inconvenient. Stay until the very end. You'll never look at a routine stop the same way again. It was supposed to be a normal stop on a quiet afternoon, the kind of moment that every police officer has gone through 1,000 times. A car speeding down the highway, a flashing siren, a routine pullover. But what happened that day was anything but routine. When Officer Jose Jimenez stepped out of his patrol car, he didn't know that his next decision, made in just a few seconds, would change his life forever. He approached the driver's window, his voice steady but firm. "Step out of the vehicle," he said. No response. "Ma'am, step out of the vehicle. I won't say it again." The woman's hands trembled on the steering wheel. Her eyes were red, mascara running down her cheeks. "I'm not dangerous," she whispered. "Then please step out." When she finally opened the door, Jose saw something he wasn't expecting. She was crying, not out of fear, but heartbreak. And when she spoke, her words hit harder than any crime report ever could. "I found my fiancé with my best friend," she said, her voice cracking, "on my wedding day." For a moment, Jose froze. The badge on his chest felt heavier than usual. This wasn't a criminal. This was a woman whose world had just fallen apart. Still, rules were rules. You were speeding. You could have hurt someone, even yourself. "I don't care anymore," she muttered. Something in that answer terrified him more than any weapon ever could. He took a deep breath and said softly, "Listen, I've seen people lose everything, but this isn't the way to fix it." Her eyes lifted to his, hollow yet searching, like someone clinging to the last thread of hope. That was when he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn piece of paper. A lottery ticket. "Here," he said. "Keep it. The draw's at the end of the month." She frowned. "Why are you giving me this?" "It's not about winning," Jose said gently. "It's about having a reason to hold on." A silence hung in the air, fragile and pure. She took the ticket in her shaking hand as if it were a lifeline. "Thank you," she whispered. "So, what happens now? You take me to jail?" He sighed, looked at his watch, then at her. "My shift just ended," he said with a faint smile. "So all I can do is give you a ticket for speeding." She laughed for the first time that day, a soft, broken laugh, but it was enough. What Jose didn't know was that the woman standing before him, holding that tiny ticket of hope, would one day return it and save his life. She wasn't supposed to be there, not on that road, not in that mental state, not with the accelerator pressed down like she was racing against her own heartbreak. But grief has no roadmap, and betrayal, it rewrites everything. Her name was Anna, and just a few hours earlier, she'd been standing in front of a mirror in her wedding dress, ready to say, "I do," ready to begin a life she had dreamed of since childhood, until she walked in and found the two people she trusted most in bed together, her fiancé, her best friend, on what should have been the happiest day of her life. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. Not at first. She just left. The dress was still on when she got in the car. By the time she was pulled over, it was crumpled in the passenger seat, her hair a mess, her eyes swollen from hours of silent sobbing. So when the officer, Jose, tried to calm her down, tried to speak to her like she hadn't just watched her entire life collapse, she almost laughed. "You don't know what I'm feeling," she snapped. "You're right," he admitted. "I don't. But I know this. They don't deserve for you to destroy yourself over them. And then, that strange gesture, that worn-out lottery ticket. At first, it felt like a joke. What could a piece of paper do? How could it fix the wreckage inside her chest? But then Jose said something that lingered in her mind long after he let her go. I always keep just one in my wallet, not to win, just to remind myself, tomorrow might still be better. That line, that simple, quiet truth, was the first thing in hours that made sense. So she held on to that ticket like it was more than just numbers, like it was proof that even in chaos, a stranger could still offer hope. When he let her go, she said thank you. But she didn't mean just for the warning. She meant thank you for seeing her, for not treating her like a problem to solve, but a person trying not to fall apart. She never expected to see him again, but fate had other plans, and by the time they crossed paths again, she would be the one holding his life together. Officer Jose Daniel Jimenez thought he had done the right thing, a warning, a kind gesture, a moment of humanity in a job that often demanded hard lines and cold decisions. He didn't write her name down, didn't make a formal report, just handed her a ticket and a piece of hope, and walked away. Case closed, or so he thought. But Jose's own life was quietly unraveling, thread by thread. It started with silence at home. His wife no longer looked at him the same way, and when she did, there was a flicker of guilt in her eyes. A guilt he didn't understand, until the night he walked into the bathroom and noticed the wet floor. The towel was dry. Her hair was dry, but the floor was soaked. And that was when everything began to shift. She said no one was there. He believed her, until he didn't. It wasn't long before the truth came out. In the worst possible way. A man in his closet, his own friend. Betrayal. Again. The same pain he had seen in Anna's eyes, he now felt ripping through his own chest. He was no longer a protector of peace. He was a broken man wearing a badge, and soon even the badge began to slip. He stopped showing up, missed assignments, didn't answer calls. The force called it abandonment of duty, but for Jose it was something worse. It was abandonment of self. He disappeared, not into another city, not into a new job. He disappeared into shadows, sleeping on benches, eating once a day, wearing the same clothes until they smelled of defeat. People passed him, but no one saw him until one day. Someone did, and not just anyone. Her, Anna. She was no longer crying, no longer broken. She was standing, strong. And when she saw him curled up on a bench, wearing the same uniform that once made him proud, she didn't walk away. She sat beside him, held out her hand, and said, "You gave me hope when I had none. Now it's my turn." It had been months since their roadside encounter, months since Anna clutched that lottery ticket like it was a second chance. And now, standing in front of Officer Jose Jimenez, homeless, hopeless, and hollow, she finally understood the weight of that moment. He had saved her when she was at her lowest. Now it was her turn. "Why are you here?" he asked, eyes barely lifting from the ground. "To return the favor," she said gently, but he didn't believe her. "I'm not worth saving," he muttered. "I lost my wife, my job, everything that ever meant something." Anna knelt beside him, looked him in the eye. "No," she said firmly, "you lost people who didn't deserve your loyalty. You haven't lost yourself, not yet." He didn't answer, but he didn't walk away either. That night, she didn't leave him on that bench. She took him home, made a space for him on the floor, a mat, a blanket, a warm meal. "I'm a stranger," he said. "For me," Anna replied, "you're the man who changed my life. And I owe you." The next day, she marched into the police station, straight to the Internal Affairs office. "I need to speak on behalf of Officer Jimenez," she said. They were already preparing to remove him from the force. The official charge, abandonment of duty, a serious offense. career ending. But Anna wasn't just a broken bride anymore. She had rebuilt herself, stronger, sharper. "I'm a lawyer," she said, "and I have something you need to hear." She placed a document on the desk, a certified medical record. Jose had been through a severe emotional collapse, not desertion, a mental health crisis. The room went quiet. Then she spoke with the calm of someone who had once been dismissed but now commanded the floor. "You want to punish him for being human, but the day I met him, he saved my life. He didn't know me, he had no reason to help, but he gave me a reason to live. You asked if he deserves a second chance?" She looked around. Officers like him define what it means to serve and protect. You should be fighting for him. Her voice echoed in the silence. And when Jose was finally called into the hearing room, Anna stood by his side. He confessed everything: his heartbreak, his collapse, his absence. "What guarantees me you won't break again?" the commander asked. "Nothing," Jose said honestly, "except my word. And this time, that's everything I have left." The board reviewed the case. 3 months of suspension, no pay, mandatory counseling. But he would not be dismissed, and when they handed down the final decision, Jose didn't cry. He stood tall, not because he had been saved, but because someone had believed in him. 3 months. That's what the committee gave him. 3 months of suspension. No badge, no uniform, no paycheck. Just time. Time to heal. Time to remember why he ever became a police officer in the first place. Jose took it seriously. He showed up for every therapy session. He volunteered in community kitchens. He spent mornings jogging and evenings reading law books Anna gave him. She didn't hover. She didn't mother him. She just believed in him. And that belief, quiet, unwavering, was the one thing he hadn't felt in a long time. On the day of his reintegration hearing, Jose walked in not as the broken man from months ago, but as someone new, someone rebuilt. The room was silent as the officer read the verdict. "You were absent without permission during a critical period, but it is also clear you suffered a legitimate mental health crisis. You have no prior disciplinary record. The committee finds that you are eligible to return to service, pending the completion of all reintegration steps." Jose stood, nodded once. "Thank you. I won't let you down." The commander met his eyes. "This is your last chance, Jimenez. Don't waste it." Outside, Anna was waiting. He smiled when he saw her. "I didn't win the lottery," he said. "But you won your uniform back," she replied. "No," he said softly. "I won something more important than that." She looked confused. "Your dignity," she guessed. He shook his head. "You." Things didn't magically go back to perfect. Life rarely works that way. But Jose was different now, stronger, clearer, kinder. And Anna? She had found someone who didn't just save her once, but continued to show up, even when it wasn't easy. One afternoon, as they walked out of the police station together, Anna stopped him. "You know," she said, "hope really was the last thing I lost." Jose smiled. "And the first thing I ever gave you." They stood there silent, the past behind them, and something new ahead. Maybe friendship, maybe more, but definitely a second chance. They say no good deed goes unnoticed, but sometimes it takes months, pain and heartbreak before that good deed finds its way back to you. Jose didn't just save Anna on the side of the road. He gave her hope when she had none, and in return, she gave him what no one else would, a reason to stand again. He thought he lost everything, his job, his dignity, his future, but one simple act of kindness came full circle. He was broken, but not forgotten. In a world that often turns its back on people once they fall, this story reminds us, sometimes the person you save will be the one who saves you. What would you have done if you were him or her? Drop in the comments if this story touched you. And remember, hope is always the last thing to go, but it's also the first step back.